Before we get into today's video, I want to say something that I genuinely mean. If you are over 60 and you have been noticing that your body does not fight things off the way it once did, that colds linger longer, that you take weeks to recover from something that would have cleared in days, a decade ago, that you feel more vulnerable than you used to, I want you to know that we see that and we care about it. That is exactly why this channel exists. Not to talk at you, not to worry you, but to give you the real information that you deserve, explained clearly and with the respect that you have earned. And here is something that most people in your position have never been told. The fact that your immune system feels weaker is not simply the price of getting older. It is not inevitable. It is not something you just have to accept. The science now understands that a significant portion of immune decline after 60 is driven by specific, largely modifiable factors that most seniors are never given clear guidance on. Researchers have a name for the process of immune aging, immunosenescence. And what they have discovered is that when these lifestyle factors are addressed, the immune system responds in measurable ways at any age. Today, we are counting down 5 habits that research suggests may meaningfully strengthen and in some cases, partially restore immune function after 60. This is a 5-item countdown with more depth than usual because each habit deserves a real explanation, not a quick tip. A genuine understanding of what is happening inside the body and why the habit works. Because people who understand the reason behind something are the ones who stick with it, and sticking with it is everything. When we reach number 1, you will discover what researchers at the University of Birmingham and King's College London found when they compared the immune systems of active adults in their 60s and 70s to young adults in their 20s. What they found changed how scientists think about immune aging entirely. Drop your age and where you are watching from in the comments below. We read every single one. Now let us start with number 5. Number 5, protect your social life like it protects you. Number 5 is one that most people understand intuitively, but rarely take seriously enough as a health intervention: staying socially connected. And the reason it belongs on a list about immune health is not philosophical. It is biological. And it goes deeper than most people realize. When the body experiences chronic psychological stress, including the stress of loneliness, the brain activates a hormonal cascade that floods the bloodstream with cortisol. In the short term, cortisol suppresses immune activity to conserve energy for the perceived threat. But in older adults experiencing persistent loneliness, cortisol remains elevated not for hours, but for weeks and months at a time. And sustained cortisol does something very specific to the immune system. It suppresses the function of T cells and B cells, the 2 categories of immune cell most responsible for targeted defense against viruses and bacteria. Over time, the immune cells can become resistant to cortisol's regulatory signals, leaving the body in a state of unchecked, chronic inflammation without the targeted defense to balance it. Researchers at UCLA found that chronically lonely older adults showed measurably higher expression of pro-inflammatory genes in their immune cells compared to socially connected peers. And a major study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences followed nearly 6,000 adults over 50 and found that chronic stress was associated with a significantly lower percentage of naive T cells, the fresh, capable immune cells that recognize and respond to new threats, and a higher percentage of exhausted cells that can no longer respond effectively. This is the immune profile of accelerated aging. And it is not caused by birthdays. It is caused by sustained isolation and stress. Here is a practical way to get started. The goal is not simply to be around people. It is to be genuinely, consistently, meaningfully engaged with them. Passive social exposure does not produce the same biological effect as active, reciprocal human connection. Schedule at least one structured, regular social activity each week that requires real engagement: a shared meal, a card game, a class, a volunteer role. A weekly call with someone who challenges you to think. The consistency is what matters biologically. The immune system responds to sustained social connection over weeks and months, not occasional contact. Alongside this, add a daily stress reduction practice of 10 to 15 minutes. Slow breathing, gentle movement like Tai Chi or yoga, or quiet meditation all reduce cortisol and support immune balance. The practice does not need to be elaborate. It needs to be daily. Safety note: if you are experiencing persistent loneliness or low mood that has lasted more than 2 weeks, please speak to your doctor. These are clinical concerns that deserve professional attention, not just lifestyle adjustments. Number 4, correct the deficiencies your doctor may have missed. Number 4 is one of the most practically actionable entries on this list, because the problem it addresses is extraordinarily common and almost entirely correctable: vitamin D deficiency, and its close companion in immune function, zinc. Here is the scale of the problem. A global meta-analysis found that approximately 60% of adults over 65 have vitamin D levels below the threshold considered adequate for health. And the reason seniors are so vulnerable to this deficiency is specific. The skin's ability to synthesize vitamin D from sunlight declines dramatically with age. An older adult standing in the same sunlight as a younger adult for the same duration will produce roughly only 1/4 as much. Add reduced outdoor time, lower dietary intake, and the impaired kidney activation of vitamin D that comes with age, and widespread deficiency is the predictable result. Most people who have it have no idea. Vitamin D is not just a bone mineral. It is an immunomodulatory hormone. Its receptors sit on virtually every immune cell in the body, including the frontline cells that detect and respond to pathogens. When vitamin D is adequate, these cells activate faster and produce more of the antimicrobial substances that kill pathogens directly. A major analysis published in the British Medical Journal, pooling data from over 25 randomized trials, found that vitamin D supplementation measurably reduced the risk of acute respiratory infections, with the clearest benefit in those who were deficient at baseline. Zinc tells a parallel story. There is a hormone produced by the thymus, the immune organ that generates fresh T cells, called thymulin. Thymulin requires zinc as an essential cofactor. Without adequate zinc, the thymus cannot produce thymulin properly, and T cell maturation is impaired. Studies in deficient older adults have shown that zinc supplementation can restore thymulin activity and improve T cell function within weeks. This is one of the clearest examples of an immune deficiency in older adults that is genuinely and fully reversible with the right correction. The first step is simple. Ask your doctor at your next appointment for a blood test measuring your 25-hydroxyvitamin D level. This is a simple test that is not automatically included in routine panels, and you may need to ask for it by name. If the result is below 20 nanograms per milliliter, discuss supplementation. Many doctors recommend 800 to 1,000 international units of vitamin D3 per day as a starting point for older adults, with the dose adjusted based on the blood result. For zinc, focus first on food. The richest dietary sources are shellfish, particularly oysters, red meat, poultry, legumes, nuts, and seeds. If dietary intake is consistently low, a supplement close to the daily recommended amount, approximately 11 milligrams for men and 8 for women, can restore adequate levels. Do not exceed 40 milligrams per day. Chronic high-dose zinc supplementation paradoxically suppresses immunity by depleting copper, which is another mineral the immune system depends on. Safety note: vitamin D supplementation can interact with certain medications, including some blood pressure, drugs, and digoxin, and is not appropriate at high doses in people with kidney conditions. Always discuss supplementation with your doctor before starting. Number 3, feed your immune system what it actually needs. Number 3 is where some of the most exciting recent science lives. Because what we now understand about the connection between what we eat, the ecosystem of microbes in the gut, and the strength of the immune system has genuinely transformed how researchers think about immune aging. The gut is home to roughly 70% of the body's immune cells. This is not a coincidence. The gut is where the immune system constantly calibrates its responses, learning to tolerate the beneficial microbes that live there while staying alert to genuine threats. Those beneficial microbes actively regulate immune cells, produce molecules that reduce inflammation, strengthen the gut lining that keeps pathogens from leaking into the bloodstream, and signal immune cells to maintain the right balance between activity and restraint. After 60, this system deteriorates. The diversity of gut bacteria declines. Beneficial microbes that produce short-chain fatty acids, which feed gut lining cells and reduce inflammation, shrink in number. Pro-inflammatory bacteria increase. This shift, called dysbiosis, is one of the major biological drivers of what scientists call inflammaging, the chronic, low-grade, whole-body inflammation that rises with age and directly impairs immune function. Inflammaging is now understood to underlie not just immune vulnerability, but cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, diabetes, and frailty. The good news is that the gut microbiome is remarkably responsive to diet. A landmark trial called the New AGE study followed over 1,200 adults aged 65 to 79 across 5 European countries, assigning half to follow a Mediterranean-style diet for 12 months. The results showed measurable changes in the microbiome, with increases in bacteria associated with healthy aging and reductions in those linked to frailty and inflammation, alongside improvements in innate immune markers. A randomized trial from Stanford then examined fermented foods specifically. Adults who increased their daily fermented food intake over 10 weeks showed increased microbiome diversity and a reduction in the levels of 19 inflammatory proteins circulating in the blood, including interleukin-6, one of the central drivers of inflammaging. The reductions were consistent and striking across participants. I recall a woman named Helen in her late 60s who had been getting 3 or 4 respiratory infections every winter for several years and had simply come to expect it. She began adding a small serving of kefir to her breakfast each morning and switching her lunch to whole grain bread with vegetables and hummus. No dramatic overhaul, just 2 consistent additions. By the following winter, she had 1 mild cold that cleared in 4 days, rather than the 2 weeks she had become used to. She could not be certain what had changed, but she was certain that something had. A safe place to begin is this. Build your meals around the Mediterranean framework. At every meal, include at least 1 vegetable or legume, eat fish twice a week, use extra virgin olive oil in place of butter or vegetable oil. Swap refined grains for whole grain versions. Reduce processed meat and added sugar. Then add 2 to 4 daily servings of fermented food, building gradually to allow your digestive system to adjust. Natural yogurt at breakfast, a small glass of kefir with a meal, a tablespoon of kimchi or sauerkraut alongside lunch. Choose varieties with live active cultures and low added sugar. If you are finding this video helpful, please take a moment to like it, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss what we create for you. Number 2, addresses something that happens in every immune cell while you sleep, and that most seniors are getting far less of than they realize. Number 2, sleep enough for your immune system to do its job. Number 2 is one that most seniors accept as declining with age and leave largely unaddressed. Sleep. And the reason it earns the number 2 position is that sleep is not passive downtime for the immune system. It is the time when some of the most critical immune work happens, and the consequences of not getting enough of it are far more specific and far more serious than most people are told. During deep, slow-wave sleep, the body orchestrates a precise sequence of immune activity. Cytokines, the chemical messengers that coordinate immune responses, are regulated during sleep in ways that cannot be replicated while awake. The immune system consolidates its memory of past infections and vaccines during sleep, strengthening its ability to recognize and respond to the same threats if they return. And T cells express higher levels of the adhesion molecules that allow them to lock on to infected cells and destroy them when the body has had adequate sleep compared to when it has not. A landmark study published in the journal Sleep followed 164 healthy adults and tracked their sleep with wrist monitors for a full week. Then all participants were exposed to rhinovirus through nasal drops. Adults sleeping fewer than 5 hours per night were more than 4 times as likely to develop a cold compared to those sleeping 7 hours or more. Those sleeping 5 to 6 hours were also more than 4 times as likely. Even sleeping 6 to 7 hours carried a meaningfully elevated risk. The protective threshold was clearly and consistently above 7 hours of sustained sleep. After 60, sleep naturally becomes lighter and more fragmented, with less time in the deep, slow-wave stages where immune regulation is most active. For the estimated quarter to half of adults over 60 experiencing chronic poor sleep, this is not a minor inconvenience. It is a sustained, daily suppression of the body's most basic defense system. You do not need to do much at first. Start here. Set a fixed wake time and hold it every day, including weekends. The body clock anchors most reliably to a consistent wake time, and a consistent wake time gradually stabilizes sleep onset. Get 30 minutes of natural outdoor light within the first hour of waking. This is the single most powerful signal the body clock receives that morning has arrived, which in turn drives the melatonin rise that makes sleep possible at night. In the 2 hours before bed, dim the lights and avoid screens when possible. Bright light in the evening suppresses melatonin production at exactly the time the body needs it to rise. Keep the bedroom cool, around 18 to 19 degrees Celsius or 65 to 67 Fahrenheit. Avoid caffeine after midday and alcohol in the evening. Alcohol may seem to aid sleep initially, but it fragments the second half of the night and significantly reduces the deep, slow-wave stages that matter most for immune function. If you regularly snore, wake feeling unrefreshed despite adequate time in bed, or have been told you stop breathing during sleep, ask your doctor about a sleep evaluation. Untreated sleep apnea is one of the most common and most treatable causes of non-restorative sleep in older adults. And one final point worth knowing. Sleeping well in the days around vaccination produces measurably stronger antibody responses. If you have a vaccine appointment coming up, treat the nights before and after as carefully as the appointment itself. And if poor sleep has been a persistent problem for you, and today's tips feel like just the beginning, we have a dedicated video on this channel that goes much deeper. It breaks down the 7 most common things that destroy sleep quality in adults over 60, including some that most people never connect to their nights at all. You will find the link in the description below. It pairs directly with everything in this segment and is well worth watching alongside today's video. Number 1, move your body every day. After 4 habits that will have genuinely changed how many people think about their daily choices, number 1 is the one the science now supports most powerfully. Regular, sustained, consistent physical activity. And the reason it earns the number 1 position is what a group of researchers found when they looked inside the immune systems of people who had kept moving into their 60s and 70s. Researchers at the University of Birmingham and King's College London recruited 125 amateur cyclists, aged 55 to 79, who had maintained high levels of physical activity throughout their adult lives. They compared their immune profiles not just to inactive adults the same age, but also to young, healthy adults in their 20s. What they found was not a modest improvement. The cyclists' levels of naïve T cells, the fresh, fully capable immune cells that recognize new threats, were no different from those of the young adults. Their thymus, which is supposed to have largely shut down by this stage of life, was still producing new T cells at a rate comparable to people 40 years younger. The cyclists also had significantly higher levels of a protective cytokine called IL-7 and lower levels of IL-6, one of the primary drivers of inflammaging. The researchers concluded that much of what we call immune aging may be a consequence of decreasing physical activity, not age itself. Here's the mechanism. Every time you exercise, muscles produce signaling molecules that directly stimulate immune function and increase the circulation of T cells and NK cells through the bloodstream. In the longer term, regular activity is thought to help clear the accumulation of exhausted and senescent immune cells that clog the aging immune system, making room for fresher, more capable cells to take their place. Regular exercise also measurably reduces inflammaging. Physically active older adults consistently show lower circulating inflammatory markers compared to sedentary peers. And in people who begin exercising after years of inactivity, these markers begin to fall within weeks. For seniors specifically, exercise also makes vaccines work better. A 10-month moderate exercise program in adults over 64 produced significantly stronger antibody responses to the influenza vaccine compared to a sedentary control group. For a population where vaccine responses are already blunted by immunosenescence, this matters enormously. Start with a level that feels comfortable for you. The target from public health guidance is 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week, plus muscle strengthening work on 2 or more days. Moderate intensity means your breathing deepens and your heart rate rises, but you can still hold a conversation. Brisk walking, cycling, swimming, dancing, and gardening all count. You do not need a gym. You need consistency. If you are starting from a low activity level, begin with what you can manage without discomfort. 10 minutes of brisk walking 3 times a day reaches the weekly target. Walk to the nearest corner and back, then walk a little further next week. The immune benefits are dose responsive. Any increase from your current baseline produces some benefit, and those benefits grow as activity increases. Add 2 sessions of muscle strengthening per week. These do not need to be heavy or complicated. Bodyweight squats, resistance band exercises, wall push-ups, and calf raises at the kitchen counter all build the muscle that supports both immune and metabolic health simultaneously. The cyclists in the Birmingham study had not done one extraordinary training block. They had kept moving steadily for decades, and their immune systems looked 40 years younger as a result. That is what consistent movement, done gently and sustained over time, can produce, and it is available to everyone watching this right now. Here's what today's countdown tells us. The immune system does not simply deteriorate with age the way most people assume. It deteriorates in specific ways, driven by specific, largely modifiable factors. And the 5 habits on today's list address each of those factors directly. Chronic stress and loneliness remodel immune cells toward a profile of accelerated aging. Meaningful social connection and a daily stress reduction practice move the biology in the opposite direction. Vitamin D and zinc deficiencies, present in the majority of older adults, directly impair T cell production and function. A simple blood test and a modest correction can restore what the deficiency removed. The gut microbiome becomes pro-inflammatory with age, but a Mediterranean dietary foundation and daily fermented foods measurably reverse that inflammation within months. Sleep below 7 hours multiplies infection risk and suppresses the immune memory processes that make vaccines protective. 7 to 9 hours consistently restores that protection. And exercise, the most powerful habit on this list, has been shown to preserve the thymic output of fresh, naïve T cells at levels indistinguishable from young adults in people who have kept moving. That is not a marginal benefit. That is a fundamentally younger immune system, maintained by a choice available to anyone. Start with 1, the one that feels most achievable right now. Add the others as the first becomes a settled part of your life. The immune system responds to sustained, consistent changes, not dramatic short-term efforts, and it responds at any age. Which of these 5 are you going to start with? Leave it in the comments. We read every single one, and your experience might be exactly what someone else watching right now needs to hear. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next one. And share this with someone you love who is over 60. Their immune system may thank you for it. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.